Welcome to Self Advocacy Rings by Kelsey and Cam. Today we have my coworker slash friend.
Hey, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Sam?
Sure. I am a 29-year-old turning 30 this year. I guess you could call me a disability self-advocate slash person who helps other people be self-advocates too. I'm a peer trainer for Mass Advocate Standing Strong. I am also a regional facilitator for the Northeast region.
And you just gave the keynote address at which conference?
The Western Region Self-Advocates Conference.
We were both there. My mom cried a little bit. She really appreciated it.
I was running around trying to find you, but
Yeah.
from what I could hear, your speech was amazing. So, bravo.
So how did you celebrate your speech?
On the way home, I had Five Guys. I just had a burger. I was shell-shocked by it all.
You always hear the actors, like they win their best Oscar and then they get In-N-Out burger on their way out. Like they've been starving themselves for weeks and they're like, oh, I just want an In-N-Out burger. So that's giving me the same vibes.
I feel special because you introduced me to your parents. I was like, they were like, Kamisha.
Yes, they've heard of you, and they probably have heard you too, because I occasionally they'll hear little snippets coming from my room. Also, what amused me was that Kamisha did the standard, "Oh, hi, Sam." Like, I don't want to stress you out by getting into a whole conversation. And then you noticed that my parents were there, and I was clearly trying to introduce you to them, and you were like, "Oh, hi."
So tell us a little bit about the Sphere.
So the Sphere is a group that is currently run by DDS. They are a group that was founded by me, and basically it's called the Sphere because it's a group for people with autism. Really, the main point of it is to meet each other and have fun and play games like board games. When I was running it digitally during COVID, we played a lot of video games. If you've heard of Jackbox, that's one of the things we played. It turned out it was a lot of stress running a group like that and also running the Northeast region, so I stopped doing it. But it's still very near and dear to my heart and very near and dear to what I do because it's how I got started, how I got this job in the first place.
And what would you say to people who are interested in starting a group of their own?
Ooh, I would say, aside from just do it, the way I did it was honestly, you want to integrate with another thing, especially if you're trying to earn money from it, which I didn't. I always did it for free. But if I was to try to earn money from it, to make sure that I was doing it all above board.
What made you want to start that?
There's peaks and valleys, right? You could have the symptom of not being able to look people in the eye. You could have that social awkwardness aspect ramped up a bit or down a bit. There's a whole bunch of different ways autism manifests in people. So I decided to try and make my own group because I figured it would fit my own peaks and valleys that way, just by nature of it being mine. And one thing I did was I came up with a policy of if you don't like it, then it's just not for you. That's okay. There's plenty of other groups around that could fit your peaks and valleys better, if that's the case. If people kept on coming back, then they kept on coming back, and that's good enough for me. I think the first group we had was 20, 30 odd people, which was a great maiden voyage. My mom had baked cookies for the parents and was doing reception, and apparently a lot of the parents ended up crying because they had never heard their kids have that much fun before. It settled around 20 people.
And what are some good tips for people who want to be group leaders?
My main advice is if your group is good for you, then you're going to be able to run it well, right? If you can run your group and have it be your own thing that you are proud of, then people will notice that you have that confidence and they'll want to join for the experience and to stretch themselves. That's what a lot of people seek with autism groups, to get themselves out there and meet people and network. Find people to talk to be able to give you help if you need it. My coordinator, when I first started, was really great and actually reached out to a lot of people at Mass before I even worked at Mass. The Mass Northeast facilitator was awesome, and she gave me a lot of material to study and also referred people to us. And that's really the main thing, is that you refer people to other groups and you try to build kind of an ecosystem there.
No, I can definitely relate to some of the aspects.
In my opinion, everybody has a little bit of autism in them.
There's certain things that I'll go to my autism groups and people will complain about certain things. And I'm like, That's just a life thing. People will complain about masking, and I'm like, but everybody does that to a certain degree. Like maybe it's harder for
Yeah.
us and maybe we have to do it more. Everybody has to, most people don't want to go to work, but they do it anyway. Can you imagine being a teacher and having a bad day? Like you can't go in and be like, sorry, kindergartners, I am just having a bad day. I don't even call it masking. I call it performing because I feel like
Yeah.
it's more about putting something on. I'm not hiding anything. I don't want to go into a meeting with my boss and have him be really annoyed with me because he's in a bad mood. I want him to be nice and polite. So that's what I'm going to do. Maybe it's more tiring from the autism, but it's definitely not like we're the only ones who do it.
But speaking of teachers, I have to take a moment. Ta-da!
Oh my goodness. My grandfather used to say, you just need the piece of paper.
Yes, it took a long time to be here.
I think that's such a great thing to talk about too, because I think we all have had challenges in school. I had a lot of problems in college socially with autism and mentally because I wasn't diagnosed with autism until 24. I didn't really grow up with that label and I wouldn't have really needed any support in the earlier ages. But what was it like for you growing up and having the diagnosis and dealing with the challenges of that?
When I was 7, I was officially diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. And now it's lumped in with autism. Nowadays, it's pretty late to be diagnosed at 7, but at the time, also, we were in the beginning stages of people getting diagnosed at all. When I was growing up, there was pretty much Autism Speaks and like one other organization. I think it was the Autism Association of New England at the time.
Yeah,
Yep.
A&E.
A&E. Yep. And that was it. So there were other organizations, there were hospitals that wanted to examine and do studies about if I was okay, because part of the problem was stress. There was a lot of stress involved, both for my family and for me. One of the problems that you get with heightened stress is you can start to hallucinate, and combine that with a very overactive imagination and an anxious brain that can convince itself that anything's real, recipe for psychosis. Basically, I'd start seeing things, and one of the ways I actually got around that was I would actually make my own rules. The rules are no hurting myself, no hurting other people. That was pretty much established right away. That none of that would ever happen. Then I added other rules as time went on, and as I gained confidence with myself.
What was stressing you out at such a young age?
Good question. It was the school wasn't meeting the criteria of what they should have done. They didn't have the right facilities or the right treatment or the right attitude towards a lot of the behaviors I had. A lot of it was like me being at fault. They treated it like it was a behavioral issue when they could have explained things to me, perhaps, instead of just straight up punishing. Part of it also was I needed to take a break every now and then. So when I couldn't do that, and when it wasn't reliable to do that, the anxiety started to skyrocket. And then when I ended up having this anxiety, it would cycle and cycle, and I'd break down. I'd say nasty things to my teachers or to my one-on-ones. They weren't trained at all on how to deal with it. I think that 99% of the teachers at the school weren't at fault for what happened. There were one or two that were, but they were higher up on the totem pole, funding related, training related sort of stuff. I don't blame people for not knowing what to do.
I think also too with the spectrum, it's tough because they may have had another autistic kid right before you who needed something totally different. It's like even more important that you really see the child as an individual and not just, oh, he has this, so we're going to do XYZ, because that might not work for that particular kid. So what helped you?
Sometimes that's what you have to do. If you can't change somebody's mind, you go to the next person. And in this case, it was the next school.
And what school did you end up going to?
It was a place called North Shore Academy. I will shout them out because they were awesome, like charter sort of school that people with school related avoidance stuff were sent to.
What did the school do that helped you? What should teachers be aware of and what should they be doing?
They treated every student as a human being with limitless potential. They treated every student with a ton of respect and were willing to do things out of the box for those students, to listen to the students, especially. They treated schooling like it was as much a social lesson as it was a academic lesson. They had 5 classes, and you'd go through history, science, English, math, and then you had one more class that was like a vocational skill. They were super fun, like Dungeons and Dragons, or a class about World War II, where you basically got to play board games about World War II and learn about the history of why they decided to do certain things a certain way. A lot of stuff that I found very cool as a history nerd, but also Lego, tinkering with computers, a lot of really interesting stuff. I wish I could have attended a lot of those classes, but I didn't have the chance to. Part of the reason why I didn't attend a lot of those classes is because my body didn't trust that school.
I heard you mention that in the speech, and I wanted to touch on that because like one thing that I learned about this year is called alexithymia, and it's when we have trouble expressing or understanding our emotions and figuring things out. And so for me, I feel like my body is independent of my mind. I've done a lot of work, and mentally I'm so much better with anxiety, but my body still thinks we're being chased by a bear. So it's like, how do you deal with having your body unlearn things that your mind has already unlearned?
You try to link them up again in a way. The best thing that I've done for anxiety attacks, quite frankly, is I'll take an anti-anxiety med if I'm having an attack, because my brain will know I'm having one. If you're not taking medication for that and you still are suffering from that sort of thing, my suggestion is, and this has worked for me too, is deep breaths and try to console your body. Do steps that make your body happy. You don't want to fall into the trap of being like, there's something wrong with me. Why is my heart rate going up, etc.? You don't want to fall into that panic mentally. Stay calm. Try and find something to change your focus.
What do you do for your mental health?
I play video games. I talk with friends online. I go out with a mentor once a week to a restaurant, and I do my job. Find what's good for you and stick to it.
Now that you're racking up the accomplishments, what are your future goals?
Part of what I've wanted to do for some time, it's been a long time since I've created anything. I might just play some games and record myself playing games and relaxing. I would say one of my big hopes for the autism community is that it's something I touched on in the speech a little bit. Masking is important, and it is a skill, and it is something that actually, as Kelsey has said, everybody does. So it's not something to be ashamed of, and you're not changing your values or what you believe in by doing that. You're changing your delivery method of those values. You need to be able to say those in a way that makes everybody else go, yeah, this person knows what they're talking about. There's a difference between doing that and then having a tantrum.
I feel like everyone should be in the room together, say what they want to say. The only person that can change you is you.
So you can be right all day long, but if you don't know how to communicate your point of view and what you need, you're not going to get what you need. Communicating is so important. And I think people on the autism spectrum, sometimes we can be a little direct. How is the other person, if I need something from my mom, how is my mom going to be receiving this message? Maybe this directness is perfect for my dad, but maybe my mom needs a little bit of a softer delivery. It's just me recognizing, oh, my mom needs to be communicated with in a slightly different way.
Right.
So maybe that's a little bit more effort for me, but if that's what gets me what I need, then that's what I should be doing.
I can definitely agree with that, because when I'm around new people, I'm just like, yeah. I feel like a mascot because I don't know how they're gonna react to me. So I'm not like my bubbly self. But like when people get to know me, they're just like, speak your mind, and I'm just like, I don't know how to do that completely yet, because I'm like, who am I gonna be? Like, do you want me to be Kamisha, or do you want me to be like the quiet version of me?
Yeah, and
I know what you mean.
different times call for different aspects of our personality. So sometimes you might need to be the quiet Kamisha, and then at other times you might need to be the loud and boisterous Kamisha.
Right.
That comes with just like time and experiences. Maybe you were quiet and then you look back and you're like, oh no, I could have spoken up. Maybe sometimes you were really loud and you're like, ooh, I maybe should have hung back. We're very pro therapy here. And I think that's something that you can work on. How was my reaction? How was I in that situation? And then just like a football player watching game tape and just saying like, how did I do in that situation? Okay, I liked what I did here. I want to do more of that. I maybe didn't love what I did there. So I'm going to do a little course correction. But I think that's, everybody can learn that. And I think that's something that's important to remember with autism is that I know for me for a long time, I thought it was just so permanent and that's how everybody talked. You're not completely disabled for the rest of your life. Maybe other people don't need instruction and you do, but you can still get instruction and you can still do the things that you want to do. And it's been amazing because it's, wow, I'm not confined to a life of depression.
That is one of the things about autism is that there are forms of it that are debilitating to the point at which the person's going to be dealing with and struggling with it for the rest of their life. There are disabilities that are similar, but also one thing with autism is that it can become very invisible. It's like depression can become invisible, ADHD can become invisible, a lot of different, even physical stuff can become invisible. But I guess my point is that autism can never be fully gone. It's always going to be there. Part of my whole thing about disability in general is that your life is going to be different, but you end up where you end up, right? You just might end up taking a little sidestep here, or if you're going down a street and you want to avoid all the potholes, you got to avoid those potholes, those speed bumps, etc. So you take a left here.
For a long time, like I couldn't talk. I didn't know how to communicate and how to express myself. So that's why I put up the wall. You can be your normal self. Nothing's wrong with you. It's hard, but like we get through it.
You went from not talking to self-advocate content expert, and that is such a huge leap. You make up for lost time. You are making up for a lot of lost time. I think that the reason why you decided to do that, right, was because you didn't want to get spoken for anymore.
I didn't know how to react to how people were going to react to me. Once I got in the zone of, okay, this is what needs to be said. I don't care if people like it or not. I just said what I need to say.
I think that's a great note to end on. We got to wrap up. I love it. Ending on a moment of hope and self-advocacy. So thank you very much, Sam, for being on the podcast.
I think we were just talking about having a podcast where we have past guests come along. So if you want to come back, feel free to come back.
Anytime you want me, I'll come around.